Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. It is Friday, March 11th, 2022. I'm at the Vancouver Mineral Investors Forum. I'm here with one of the companies that I invited. Caleb Stroup is the CEO of Headwater Gold. Headwater is a company that I've owned. I mean, I owned it before it was public, and I bought a replacement because I'm very impressed with the strength of this team. It's a very, very technically adept team. A lot of them are specialized in the basin and range area in the western U.S., like Nevada. Nevada is kind of the area everybody thinks of, but it extends a bit farther than that. But they had a very interesting model that I found very intriguing about the way that they find projects, the fact that they picked up a lot of projects. I like the fact that they do the first 2 or 3 phases. They do the drilling themselves. They're very unromantic about projects, which is how you have to be if you're doing greenfields exploration. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, they move on to the next thing, and they have lots of next things. And I just wanted to touch on that, Caleb, because I think some people, they look at a new company, you've got 10 projects, you're in an area that's, some would say is almost crowded in a way. I mean, it's a pretty popular area for gold exploration. How is it these guys come out of nowhere with 10 projects? What did you do to sort of vector in on the projects you wanted? Why do you have these projects in such a busy area? Why isn't Newmont drilled everything 10 times that you own?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a few different things I'll touch on. One is we put together a systematic approach to step through these districts and look for opportunities that had been missed, that were slightly different, using sort of more modern understandings of mineral systems, how to target these things at the appropriate depths to actually test the right target for the right geology. Right. And so that's a big component of it. And a lot of the crowding that you see and have seen in places like Nevada is to projects that have been drilled 4 or 5 times in the last cycles. Yeah. We're avoiding that sort of altogether. Right. That is something that happens in these cycles. Somebody comes in, offsets or twins some holes. The next guy comes back in, does the same thing.
I find myself saying I've seen this before many, many times. Yes.
So it may look crowded, but from a perspective of looking for new, real high impact, new discoveries, there's still quite a bit of potential if you're willing to do the work. And this is something we put together over 2.5 years as a private company, as you know. It's not something that was thrown together overnight and decided we're going to launch a company. No, we built this from the ground up and spent a lot of time putting together data sets, building a relatively large, fairly unique and fairly high-tech database system that underlies a lot of this with public and proprietary data, which is often quite hard to come by in the US. And so that's a big part of the competitive advantage there as well, and our ability to not only generate these projects, but keep a pipeline going. Because as you know, the odds are against you in this game. We've had surprisingly good success so far, but the reality is many of the projects you drill are going to be cycled out, and you're going to have to keep the pipeline rolling, and that's part of the philosophy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll point out as a newsletter writer that follows it, but also as a guy that owns a fair amount of it. I can't really overstate the fact these guys drilled 4 projects with small programs last year. 2 of them were successful. That is a really, really good batting average with greenfield stuff. And I guess part of the key to understanding Headwater is, Caleb and his team. These guys are all about high grade, and I guess part of what gave you an opening, is there was a lot of stuff drilled in the 80s. Like everybody was drilling the crap out of everything in Nevada when the gold price went to $800. But basically everyone wanted surface, open pit, bulk tonnage, heap leach stuff. So they just weren't targeting what you're targeting, basically.
That's right. And in many cases, they were looking at large alteration cells, drilling the upper, say, 100 meters of those alteration cells with grid RC holes that we now understand these systems a lot better, and we look for opportunities where, that may have been done, but the appropriate part of the system to look for high grade gold veins wasn't touched by that drilling. Right. And that is why we've been able to have some good success right out of the chutes, is because that model works.
Do you want to just, and maybe you should just give us for people who aren't familiar, just give us a thumbnail sketch of the two programs that did work that you drilled late last year.
So we listed last year in June of 2021, fresh listing on the CSE, immediately went to work drilling 4 projects in Nevada and along the Oregon-Idaho border. 2 of those projects were significant successes. At our Katy project, we just announced some news about 3 weeks ago. Our first hole there hit underneath some lower grade near surface mineralization that had been identified in the past, just like we were talking. We predicted that it should neck down into a high grade feeder structure.
Right.
Our first drill hole through that hit 1.95 meters of 23.6 grams.
Nice hole.
In a broader zone of almost 15 meters of 5 grams.
Right.
So it's
nice
real.
hole. Yeah.
And the sorts of things that we were drilling under were 0.4, 0.5.
And well, because you were the first guys to test, interrogate the look for the boiling zone, essentially, this nice intercept, it's really 15 meters of 5 grams. Trust me, anybody will take that. That's nice. That's a nice hole. It's still wide open because nobody else bothered going down to that depth.
No, we drilled 2 holes in that program.
Yep.
The second hole was almost 1.5 kilometers away from that first hole. So It's still fairly wide open. And that's a bigger point for a system like that, where we have a pretty large land package, 6 kilometers by 3-4 kilometers or something like that.
Right.
And with only 2 holes, one of them having some success on the high grade side, it really opens up the potential sort of at that whole property scale now. Say, okay, what other targets are out there? We know this system has potential for high grade, and changes the way we think about things a little bit. Yeah.
And I know you get to Katy just as the weather was closing in. Essentially, I don't think you even drilled as many holes as you wanted to. But the nice thing, and the nice thing for your shareholders, what you got ahead of you this year is, I know there's a bit of work to do. The snow's going to melt, all that kind of stuff. But the plans, I would assume, are for something significantly larger this year, where it's going to be multi-hole program, a lot more news release going as results come back, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this demands some serious follow-up. We're going to have to offset this in multiple holes, multiple locations, along strike, down dip. And in addition to the success at Katy, our hits down at Spring Peak in Nevada, just south of Aurora, are also demanding immediate follow-up. So that's, one thing about this story now is the next steps are very clear, what we need to do. We need to go follow up on Katy and go follow up on Spring Peak, and then we have this portfolio backfilling behind those projects that we can, we're thinking about how we're going to best optimize our program to maximize value there, but there's a lot of options. And at Spring Peak, we drilled 5 holes there, and 4 of the 5 hit significant amounts of gold. That was a sort of a proof of concept RC drilling campaign, where the model predicted that we would need to go down about 150 meters. And in 4 or 5 holes, when we reached that 150 meter depth, we hit gold. And several holes ended in mineralization, sort of 0.4 type 0.5 gram per ton mineralization. The best hole there was 38 meters of a gram underneath a barren center. Still not very deep, still just about 150 meters at depth. So again, immediate follow-up required there. That had a higher grade core with some 4 or 5 gram material in there. That's going to be a big part of the program this year too. Drilling both of those. So that'll keep us. That'll keep one rig pretty busy. Through the summer, is following up on those programs. Continued results, we hope, through the summer and fall.
And you'll probably be doing earlier stage stuff on a few others. Like I know the one project you guys picked up late last year that I love though, because I love this target. I know you're Midas North, but I do know. I know you're in that sort of classic early exploration conundrum where it's like, the great thing is we've got this 2 by 2 kilometers center zone. The shitty thing is we've got this 2 by 2 kilometers center zone, because where the hell do you put a drill hole?
That's right.
So I guess that's what you got to figure out now.
But we have a pretty clear recipe for what works in those sorts of systems. This is right next to Hekla's Midas mine. They just made a new discovery that's very exciting, called the Green Racer Center. Highlight of 190 grams over estimated true width of 4 meters.
Nice.
It's it looks pretty real. We know more or less what they threw at that in terms of targeting.
And do you know? Like I know sort of the Midas mine's here, Green Racer's sort of here.
Yep.
You guys are sort of up here.
Yeah.
Structurally, does anybody know? Because I know most of this stuff is blind. I think a lot of this stuff is blind. Even the Midas and this Green Racer's blind. Has anybody done anything that really gives you information about the structural setting? Like, do you know whether that set of structures, are they going north towards your property? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, no, there's the same structural fabric that hosts Midas and very analogous sort of step over system that seems to be controlling the alteration on our property. It's, these are on echelon sort of features, but it's part of the same broader structural framework.
Right.
That's what we're working with right now. And as we collect more geophysics, do more mapping and stuff, we will be able to sort of pin those questions down a little bit more. But that's all part of the plan here. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to have a busy and news-filled 2022.
Yeah, and it's never a dull moment. We're always working on one of these things or multiple projects at any given time. Yeah.
Okay. It's a great story. I mean, it's obviously it's an early story. It's a drill spec, and it's my subscribers certainly know I have a soft spot for drill specs. I love the exploration process. But this is a great story. I think people need to appreciate the fact that their batting average is actually extraordinarily high. 2 out of 4 is really good with first stage drilling on target. Remember, these are all blind targets essentially. I think it's a great story. I think the market should be giving it more love. I've bought all the placements. I've been buying it in the market. I think you really need to look hard at this story. So it's Headwater Gold, HWG, on the CSE, and some similar symbol in the U.S. that I don't remember.
HWAUF.
HWAUF. There you go. Thanks for coming by, Caleb.
Thank you.
Great story. Love it.